So this is just some quick examples. This is actually very similar to the type of interface that PG&E has available across all of their programs in California now, but also most of the utilities in California are on this platform, IOU, Muni, and CCA, also Oregon, New York, and a bunch of other states and some international as well. Most importantly, what it gives you is the ability to get real-time or near real-time telemetry into the performance of your program or your business. So rather than waiting till the end of 4 years to see how you did, you can literally, in many cases, we're pulling this data and updating it every single night. And you can see it includes savings, but also what are the attributes? What are the types of projects I'm looking at? And it gives you the ability to do analytics and filter. And that's really where it gets super interesting. So if you're a utility or a DTO and you have a grid constraint, you can, at the highest order, figure out where's this coming from, what sectors should I target, and even what exact buildings are the highest potential. So one of the things that's potentially the most beneficial that is often left on the table is just the ability to target high potential customers. So it turns out, and this is actually the big secret, everybody, which is if you want to save energy, you have to use it first. And so we find that in many, it's a joke, but it's not really a joke. We find that if you apply that basic thinking to a lot of our efficiency programs, it turns out we're really good at figuring out in advance who those negatives are likely to be and who the high savers are. And so if I'm doing an HVAC building shell program and I want to save between 4 and 8 p.m., it turns out we're looking for the buildings where when the temperature goes up or down, there's a lot of change in energy use in that period of time at a high volume with a good model fit. And that's an excellent predictor of high savers, and the reverse is true for the negatives as well. And in many cases, we can double the returns on our programs in terms of savings by identifying the people actually using the energy before we go retrofit the houses. And this can be applied up and down the value stack, using this data just to optimize what we're delivering and having the flexibility, because we don't have to regulate the business model because we're paying on performance, to allow companies to innovate and iterate. We also have the ability to measure, again, the hourly impact. And this is the big kind of, when you look at Caltrack and the Open E-meter, there's going to be a lot of familiar there. The goal was never actually to invent newfangled methods. It was to create consistent, replicable methods. When you get into AMI data, which is where it really shines, we're based on something called a time-of-week temperature model, which is a very well-established approach that we liberally borrowed from the national labs. Our kind of mantra is find the best stuff and then iron it out, not invent newfangled things unless you need to. But the ability to, again, measure the hourly impact, and of course then we know where that is on the grid at the same time, is really the huge shift in all these behind-the-meter resources. And especially for energy efficiency, there really is no such thing as monthly average savings. Everything affects load shape. And when you do that, we have the ability now to track for a utility like PG&E, but also SMUD and others that we're working with across the country. We can track all of their programs. We can allow them to drill down right to the individual building, track back out, and actually see the impact of their whole demand side effort, and then be able to tie that to their avoided cost calculations. So we can treat efficiency just like every other resource on the grid. And the basic policy that we're moving towards is to say, look, there's a meter, and there's a grid side, and there's the building side. Maybe we don't care if this change in demand is coming from storage, or it's coming from IoT, or it's coming from insulation. Maybe what we care about is what happened. What was the change in demand? And the basic policy, in our opinion, should be as simple as we should do all cost-effective, meaning lower the cost than the marginal cost of the alternative. We should do all of the cost-effective flexibility behind the meter before we go in front of the meter. Because when we go behind the meter, we're producing co-benefits for our customers, and we're attracting private capital to the mix as well. And we should exhaust all of that opportunity first. And it's really important. It's not energy efficiency versus storage or versus EVs or anything else. When we run the numbers in California at a 50% rate of solar, there's a flexibility gap that emerges of almost 50%. It's getting, solar and renewables are accelerating so quickly. And this is not a rub on, this is nothing negative about storage, but it's starting from a much smaller baseline and it's not growing as quickly. And so this gap is actually increasing. And so it's really an all hands on deck type of a strategy. We need all of the in front of and behind the meter resources we can possibly get to actually decarbonize and remain stable. So the last thing, and then I'll pitch it to some questions, and the next panel is going to cover a lot of these same topics, I'm sure in more depth. we do think the future is treat the behind the meter flexibility and energy efficiency being a component of that, exactly like other resources. Bid it into the same markets, pay for it as it happens, let the market innovate on the solutions. But I would just put out there that in advance of that, as the IESO and others create those markets and they start to spool up, if you're running efficiency programs, if you're a utility, if you're a company out there deploying solutions, there's a place to start right now that does not require asking permission or changing anything, which is start tracking everything you do. Get the data. Use that, there's the big hairy, let's go change the world and we're going to do efficiency through procurement, which I think is going to happen before we know it. But you could take any efficiency rebate program and track your performance and do some really simple things like target the right customers, send your leads to the contractors delivering good results, do quality assurance where it's not working as well. Just start to use that intelligence to improve what we're doing. And what we're building is an actuarial data set at the same time, so that as these markets emerge and the IESO says we want to buy efficiency as it happens, if you can deliver it when and where we need it, you're ready for that. And you'll get near-term returns on those investments. It's kind of a no-brainer. The benefits far outweigh any of the costs. So again, we think flexibility and energy efficiency, the big idea here is make it work like everything else. And we think with standard measurement at the bottom of the stack, we can do that, and everything else is ready to go. And there's a tremendous amount of innovation in the market, and there's plenty of financing to pay for it. So thank you all very much.